Individual signed up to speak is John Megas. Megas. Good evening, Mr. Megas. You have the floor. Yes, if you could please push the icon at the bottom of your screen where it has the little face and the amplification. Yeah. Mr. Howard's used to it. He'll tell you. Right there. Okay. So
thank you for letting me speak. I ran into Mayor Sarno the other day, and he asked me to type a letter, which I have right here that I'd like to give to him. And I'm basically going to read what I typed up today. My name is John Megas. You can call me Jack. I've lived on Surrey Road in East Forest Park for more than 50 years, and recently the quality of life has decreased immensely. I cannot sleep in my front bedroom anymore after 5 a.m. due to speeding buses, trucks, and cars. The poor quality of the roadbed does not help either. It is more than 30 years since Surrey Road, a road with 3 major institutions on it and over 500 vehicles driving on it per day. It's over 30 years since it's been paved. I called Chris Agnoli. He filled in 100 potholes this summer. That's not good enough. 30 years and we can't get it paved. School buses are the worst. They roar down the street doing 40 miles an hour, mostly from Memorial School. I would be scared to be a school kid in one of those school buses. You think I would live in the school zone with Memorial School and Pope Francis right there on Surrey Road. However, there is no 20-mile-an-hour sign on my side of the street with a dozen houses coming from the west to Roosevelt Avenue. There is no school zone sign either, and that is the case for 50 years. I've lived there that long and there have never been any. There's signs like this at Memorial School, up Overlook Drive, on Old Brook Road, but not on the eastern end of Surrey Road where I live. I've been to East Forest Park Civic Association meetings galore. I have called Chris Agnoli. I've called the bus company. I've spoken to the principal at Pope Francis. I bothered the police, and I've especially bothered Tim Allen, who I thank for a lot of help. We were able to put in a 4-way stop sign. Sometimes people stop at that stop sign. I've seen 2 of them go through it recently. People come down the road from the west. You know where that bar is located on a Friday night or a Saturday night after hours, you know, like at 12:15 to 2 a.m.? And it's just amazing that people can do 50 miles an hour down my street. I can feel it. We've discussed speed bumps. They're too expensive. The police are undermanned to stop speeders. And in May, when there's a tennis tournament, we have illegal parking on both sides of the road, even though there's no parking signs. Can you help Surrey Road? 30 years is long enough. Could I give one suggestion about what to do cheaply?
Well, we do have a lot of speakers here tonight, Jack.
It would take one or can I leave you a whole bunch of photos? And what else I'd like to do is, can I also leave you an envelope for the mayor, or can I drop that somewhere in the building?
The mayor's office is right down the hall. You can also leave it with our staff if you want. If you leave it with Sean, we'll make sure it gets to the mayor's office.
Yep. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much,
Thanks
sir.
for listening.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Margaret Blair regarding 5 Mile Pond. Is Margaret here tonight? Say again, Margaret. Okay. We'll try to come back to you, Margaret, if you're here later. The next is, I'm sorry, it's part penmanship, part my pronunciation. Mana Wanashilo. Good evening. Would you mind correcting me on the pronunciation of your name?
It's close enough. My first name is Mana, and last name is Washu.
Thank you very much. You have the floor.
Dear Honorable City Councilors, my name is Mana Washu, and I'm a 16 acres resident. I'm speaking here today to raise awareness and also to call for action. At least 50 other residents and I are deeply concerned about the planned clear-cutting of 10-plus acres of trees along Allen Street. When I heard about this project a few months ago, we concerned residents tried to find a meeting where we could speak with the solar company NextGrid and ask some important questions. However, the meeting info we received was either incorrect or there was only a closed invitation-only meeting. By the time we were finally able to attend a meeting, we were told that NextGrid was already in the final phase of purchasing the land, and we were told it was a done deal. However, shortly after, we concerned residents started distributing flyers in our neighborhood, and I'm astonished that 50% of the residents in the area knew nothing about this project that could greatly impact their health and well-being. Last month, Mr. David Bloniarz, the president of Regreen Springfield, kindly provided the very thorough tree analysis report. This analysis quantifies the impact of losing so many trees at once, which is much more than we originally anticipated. We'll be happy to provide the PDF version of this report with you via email. Trees are the only things that are capable of removing pollutants from the air and generating oxygen for us. As you are probably aware, Springfield has been known as Asthma City for quite a while. For people who are already suffering from asthma and other respiratory conditions, clear-cutting of so many trees could pose a devastating impact. Trees also cool down streets during summer months and keep rivers, ponds, and reservoirs clean by preventing water runoff, and it provides natural habitats for birds and many animals. By cutting down so many trees, heat waves during summer months will most likely intensify, which means more energy consumption and higher energy bills for residents during summer months. The iTree analysis also showed that these trees are holding more than 137,000 gallons of water under their roots. After these trees are removed, this amount of water needs to go somewhere. The land in question is so very close to the wetland, and the land is all connected. This past spring, there was so much rain, and many residents had water issues in their garages and basements. If the water damages dramatically increase after these trees are pulled out, who would cover the cost of repairs on people's basements and garages? Lastly, there was a webinar hosted by Senator Ed Markey about increasing incidents of inappropriate siting of large-scale solar projects throughout the state of Massachusetts. In this important webinar, Mr. William Momau, Professor Emeritus of Tufts University, talked about the importance of preserving existing trees in order to fight climate change. People often think big trees are replaceable if they plant more young trees, but science clearly shows that it does not work that way. Losing mature trees could create devastating impact on our health, on our planet, and our next generation's future, and this scale of tree loss is most likely irreversible. This is an extremely urgent matter, and we concerned residents ask for your immediate attention and making much stricter guidelines for such clear cutting as soon as possible. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your time. Our next speaker is Stephen Howard. Mr. Howard?
Thank you, Mr. President, and good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I really came here to speak about our organization that's been giving out some free refurbished computers, which we refurbish ourselves, and the positive impact that it's been having on the recipients. But last night, yesterday while I was working on a different project, I noticed that there's supposed to be a meeting, a petitioner would be coming here later on. And I asked, I am not speaking on behalf of the neighborhood council, but I am an elected board member of the McKnight Neighborhood Council. I am not speaking on behalf of them. So when I sent out the information about this petition, folks weren't aware of it. Apparently some folks knew about it, but not everyone knew about it, especially the residents on that particular street. Now, seeing that this is calling for a zone change from a single family unit, as the neighborhood is designated, to a two-family unit, it's designated as one family. The property is presently unoccupied. It's owned, but it's empty. It has never had a building on it before, but I understand that the request will be from 1 to 2 family. Normally the procedure is out of courtesy for it to be brought before the neighborhood council as well as the board. I can't remember which one it is right now.
Planning board.
Right. Now, this is scheduled to be referred to the city council tonight. I don't know if there'll be any discussions.
If I may, Mr. Howard, just to point out that that item is just on for information purposes only tonight. There will be no vote. It's just that the State Zoning Act requires that we refer that to the planning board.
Okay.
And that the planning board must meet on it before we can hear it. So there'll be no discussion on that before the council tonight. If it ultimately goes through the planning board and comes to us, there'll be an open hearing where members of the public will be offered an opportunity to testify, as with all of our hearings.
Okay, well, I received an email which I don't have in front of me right now. I was trying to pull it up. But apparently, the language, as a matter of fact, here it is right here. This is coming from the city clerk's office, and this is what concerned me. From the city clerk, I hereby notify you that the following items of business have been filed with this office and can be acted upon at the meeting. So I don't know what that can be acted upon means. So I was just looking for clarification. Thank you, sir.
I'd be happy to look at that notice, whatever you're looking at after the meeting with you. I'd be interested to see what that is. Just find me after, Mr. Howard. Okay, so the next speaker is Erica Andrews. Is Erica here this evening?
Erica and Ariana may be online.
I do not see any participants online. Okay, so we will come back to Erica if she's around. Next is Ariana. Okay, Ariana is also not online. We're going to skip Ariana for now. Vern MacArthur. Good evening, Vern.
Good evening. Thank you for hearing me this evening. I live at 297 Trafton Road in Forest Park. I'm speaking in regard to the Allen Street Solar Project on behalf of the Springfield Climate Justice Coalition. The planned solar farm on Allen Street near Cooley, behind the huge shopping mall there, will require cutting down this 11-acre wooded area. But consider, the project will cut down several acres of trees which absorb carbon from the air in order to put up a solar array to reduce carbon emissions from fossil fuels. Now, does that seem wacky or what? Eliminate natural carbon absorption to replace with solar to reduce carbon emissions into the air, which now has more carbon in the air because the trees are gone. The phrase robbing Peter to pay Paul comes to mind. Plus, cutting down the trees will release much of the carbon already sequestered in those trees. Now, this project is right next to those huge mall parking lots on both sides of Cooley, which absorb a lot of heat from the sun and then re-emit the heat back into the air. They could be covered by solar panels, like at Smith & Wesson, which is a win-win proposition. There are lots of reasons why this project is not a good idea, but I want to emphasize 2 points. First, I suggest we should require for such projects a net gain analysis of how much carbon savings will actually accrue to any such project. The clean energy gains will be somewhat compromised, or maybe severely, by the loss of the trees. Important to know this, to quantify this, in order to judge whether any such project should be approved. Second, this project makes so clear that the city, on behalf of the community, needs to have a stronger voice in deciding the value of such projects and whether they should be permitted. We can't just leave it up to private businesses to decide. What's in their best interests, business interests, is often not in the best public interests of the public, the community, or of climate health, even when businesses are being responsible. So I urge you to understand the importance of preserving Springfield's woodlands and their carbon benefits, along with many other benefits. Also, develop ways, please, to strengthen the voice and role of the public in the planning and decision-making process. Councillor Govan's proposed woodlands ordinance is certainly a first major step. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. MacArthur. Next speaker is Margaret Sheehan. Is Margaret here this evening? Good evening, Margaret. Please come forward.
Good evening. Again, my name is Margaret Sheehan. I am also a 16 acres resident. I am here to talk about the solar project on Allen Street. So just as my two fellow residents have been speaking about the importance of, preservation, I guess it's just been very concerning, as what was stated, that the residents within the area had no idea of this project until the flyers came out. And it was too late then, to be honest with you. At that point, we were hearing about a 13-acre property that was bought by NextGrid, and that there was just going to be clear cutting to put in solar panels. And so true, as what was stated, the trade-off. I'm a solar supporter, absolutely. Rooftops, parking lots, that's great. But what kind of a trade-off is that when you're talking about a forested area that's going to be gutted and put up solar panels? It's just not really a representative trade-off of what we should be looking at, to be very honest with you. There has to be some kind of a balance. And at one of the meetings that I attended, Regreen Springfield, that's when you began to hear that there's absolutely no ordinance, that the city has very little to say about a solar farm coming through and basically doing what they want to do. So it's in folks' backyards, and I suppose it could be anywhere else. I mean, there's not much to say on it. NextGrid is saying that they're going to give us some kind of a boundary with some trees left, but we really have no idea what that's going to look like. And that area is prone to flooding. The area between Allen Park Road and Ramblewood, that bend there, there's always flooding. So as the trees go, the land will not be able to absorb as much. And certainly, the wildlife, the native wildlife that is also present, it's truly going to all be affected. So, as we look at, again, talking about balance of what is in the interest of a community, health-wise, certainly preservation-wise, and, also native wildlife that's in the area. Again, it's just really unfortunate to hear that without an ordinance, the city has very little input and very little say as to how this project goes. And that's just very unfortunate. I don't think that's the way a city would want to be moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sheehan. Our next speaker is Edward Williams. Mr. Williams, are you here? Good evening.
Well, good evening, and thank you all for allowing this venue for me. Two questions I had. Number one is, have the water rates gone up? Because I've had several people ask me, because they're looking at $100 a month water bills as opposed to what it used to be at $35, and if they went up, I mean, how much? Is it $70 worth of up? And I don't have the answers to that. The other thing is, too, I got this notice from compliance officers here about my property. They're saying I got dead growth on it. I've got pictures here of what they took. Unfortunately, they wouldn't bother to come and knock on my door, to ask me or to tell me that, hey, this is what's the violation. And several calls have never gotten returned from Mr. Mitchell there. And I would like to know what the violation is so I could absolutely correct them. So I was talking to Wambach here a little while ago, and he seems to think there might have been a breakdown in communication. So I would like to get this thing over and done with and find out what it is I need to do. And I'm just hoping it's not the signs that I have on my lawn there, because it's detrimental to the rest of the neighborhood, if you understand what I'm saying. I don't have Harrison walls on my sidewalk or on my property. So thank you for hearing me.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. Mr. Williams. Our next speaker is Paul Ramesh. Mr. Ramesh. Give me a second here to...
Hi, I'm Chet Ardolino on behalf of Paul. I'm a real estate agent with Berkshire Hathaway. Paul and his wife are the owners of 497 Belmont Avenue in Springfield. They are concerned about the X redevelopment project They recently received a letter from the city of Springfield outlining a temporary easement and a partial full taking of his parking lot. These will certainly have severe impact on the business there and on the building owner. And he would just ask that that be tabled until he had an opportunity and his wife had an opportunity to speak with the city engineer to understand exactly what will take place with his property and how it will affect the business there and his ownership of the building. Also, the offer is for 6 years, and it's only $13,000, and that certainly doesn't seem quite enough. So he just wanted to go on record tonight to express his concern over that and give himself an opportunity to talk with the city engineer to see if there's other options for that easement or taking. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ardolino.
He did receive a notice, and as probably may be common with lots of different property owners in the X area, you know, maybe have put it aside a little bit, and then when opened it up and took a look at it recently, started to become concerned about it, asked me to come here just to go on record on behalf of his wife and himself to express their concern over it. You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Ardolino. That concludes the list of speakers. I'm going to go back to the 3 people who registered that weren't here at the time we called them, because we do have a few more minutes. Margaret Blair, is Margaret here? Last call from Margaret. Sorry, Margaret. Erica Andrews. Erica, last call for Erica. And this last person who only signed up with one name, Ariana. Is Ariana here to speak tonight? Okay, I'm sorry, Mr. Howard? On the Zoom. They are not on the Zoom. So that will conclude our public speak out. Thank you, everyone. The council will stand in recess for 6 minutes until our regular meeting at 7 o'clock. I try and get to order. Okay. 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 Good evening. Focus, let me know please when we're ready. Okay, looking good. We're going to call this meeting of the Springfield City Council to order. Today is Monday, October 7th. The time is 7 p.m. We just join on the Zoom here too. Lots of stuff to do. Okay, we're going to call this meeting to order. Madam Clerk, will you please start by calling the roll?
Councillor Walsh. Present. Councillor Allen.
Present.
Present. Councillor Delgado. Present. Present. Councillor Click Bruce.
Present.
Present. Councillor Govan. Absent. Councillor Brown.
Present.
Present. Councillor Davila.
Present.
Present. Councillor Curran. Absent. Councillor Santinello.
Present.
Present. Councillor Edwards.
Present.
Present. Councillor Whitfield.
Present.
Present. Councillor Perez. Present. Councillor Fenton.
Present. Will the council and our guests please rise for a moment of silence?
Present.
Please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Yes. Yes. Will all the councilors and our guests please rise for a moment of silence? And Councilor Whitfield, would you like to turn your microphone on and indicate what we're honoring the moment of silence for?
Yes, we're taking a moment of silence for Will Chapman, who is the son of Doris Chapman, former police officer, and Charlie Yeomans, retired police officer that was killed on a motorcycle a few weeks ago. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Whitfield. Okay, well wishes to the Chapman family. First item we have on tonight is reports of committee. Are there any reports of committee this evening? Councilor Allen.
Thanks, Mr. President. The Finance Committee met this afternoon at 4:30, because we had another meeting at 5:30, and we discussed approximately 10 items, most of which went fine, and we voted to approve those items. At the Finance Committee meeting, from the Finance Committee were Councilor Edwards, Councilor Delgado, and myself, and we also had Councilor Whitfield, Councilor Click Bruce, and I think Councilor Davila, and Councilor Walsh. So we're 7 of us at the meeting. Most of the items went fine, and there was good discussion on the things. But one thing that didn't go fine was the knowledge that we have to apparently take a vote tonight on the Sumner Avenue project. And the last 20 minutes of the meeting was discussing the Sumner Avenue project. So we suggested, Councilor Walsh said that she would like to put it in committee. When I mentioned that to Mr. Signoli, he said if we don't vote on it tonight, we're in some trouble with this, we're missing a deadline with the state, which seems pretty unreasonable to me because we just got it today, even though it is a project that's gone 12 years. The people whose properties are being affected, it seems like they should have an opportunity to come to a meeting and express their opinion. So I would say most of the items on the Finance Committee went fine. That one item needs further discussion at this meeting. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Allen. Are there any other reports of committee? Councilor Perez. Councilor Perez, could you put your microphone on, please? focus. Councilor Perez's microphone isn't working. If we could try to troubleshoot that, please.
So for part of the report, I was part of the Finance Committee today. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Perez. Sorry about that. Okay, any other councilors with a report of committee? Okay. Councilor Govan?
And I don't think I was recognized.
I apologize for that. Madam Clerk, will you please recognize the councilor in seat number 5?
Councilor Govan.
Great. And I do have a committee report, Mr. President.
Okay, proceed.
So the Environmental and Sustainability Committee met on October 1st. Councilors present were Walsh, Davila, and Allen. We had a number of community members present, and we met to talk about specifically the proposed solar, I'm not sure, we're not supposed to call it a solar farm anymore, but a solar something on Allen Street. So we did talk about that. We actually agreed to meet with Next Grid, representatives of Next Grid, and I believe that Councilor Allen did get in touch with someone, and we're going to be meeting with them shortly. We referenced the report by Dave Blomiers, which everyone should have gotten regarding the tree analysis in the city of Springfield. And we, of course, commended Alex Sherman, forester, who has been doing a great job in the last few years to ensure that our asthma rates go down. And we're hoping that will continue. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Chairman Govan. Councilor Brown, and then we'll do you, Councilor Santos.
Okay.
Councilor Brown?
Thank you, Mr. President. Maintenance and Development met with Chris Signoli and DPW. Basically, we were talking about the increase on the mattress and different laws that we're going to put on the books. Me and Councilor Walsh was present. It was really a good conversation. I had referred maybe the possible increase to the constituents. We can use some of the funding to give a trash break or a break to some of the seniors and veterans. Chris said that would be something that we can look into. But this is still something I know a lot of my colleagues are really interested in, especially when now we're talking about certain fees when it comes to trash and trash disposal and how we deal with it. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Brown. Councilor Perez, is it a committee report?
I know it's a tendency people forgetting that I go to the subcommittees. I was at the subcommittee as well.
Yes, Councilor Perez was there. Yes,
I apologize. I also forgot Councilor Fenton.
Please mark Councilor Perez as present for both those committees, Maintenance and Development and Finance Committee.
And I have to develop more. I was part of the Maintenance and Development. We still have concerns. In the last meeting of the subcommittee, which I part of the subcommittee, it was recommendation to continue into committee for further discussion. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Perez. Councilor Santinello.
Mr. President, on the report that I think Tim Allen gave along with Councilor Walsh, on that solar project, we don't really have any control on that, do we? Do we have any input on that? We can't. I mean, if we oppose that, it doesn't matter, right? They can just come forward if they want to proceed. Is that not correct?
Well, I mean, I don't know that it's appropriate to vet it right now, but I'm not aware of any decision that would be before the City Council on that subject.
Okay, thank you.
If I may, Mr. President?
Councilor Govan.
Councilor Santinello, so what we're doing is we're having conversations with different groups in the city who are concerned about the urban forests that are being knocked down and clear cut. So those are the conversations we're having. In this specific project, we may not have, any say in it, of course, but we do want to make the developers aware, and they have actually been open to having some discussions. So we're just hoping that, if they don't have to cut every last tree on that lot, that they won't. We're going to ask them about it. We don't have a say on it, and it probably won't be coming before the City Council for a vote. Thank you, Mr. President.
just to say that I appreciate the work you're doing, Counselor, and I just appreciate what you're doing.
Thank you, Councilors. Thank you, Councilor Santinello and Govan. Any other reports of committee this evening? Councilor Davila.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Pilot Revenue Committee met back in November, and in that meeting, as a way of trying to identify new revenue to the city, we decided that in order to, we need to get a full handle and to understand what the needs of the city are. With that in mind, we asked both the Director McCaffrey, Jeffrey McCaffrey from the Housing Department and Commissioner Carlton to come in and give us in the perspective what are some of the needs in the respective department. In that meeting, sir, was President Councilor Santinello, Committee Member Jay Latorre, Committee Member Karen Lee, City Attorney and former Councilor Kevin Check, Mr. Shea, Jerry McCaffrey, Helen Carlton, Lizzie Hackett, and Patrick Burns. According to Commissioner Carlton, it is her belief that we need to start looking into a more aggressive way / concerted effort as to how we start outreaching people during the winter to get them off the streets. Because as we all know, sir, we have had an increase not only on the homeless population, but also on the panhandling here throughout the city. And many of the people that are coming into the city, sir, are from outside the city that are just pouring into a city, then we owe them once they are here. And that's presenting a real problem, which is draining resources on the fire, police, and EMS aspects, sir. According to the Housing Department, we definitely, it's no secret that we have a housing shortage. We need to continue to make sure that we revamp the housing that we have, because we no longer have pretty much any land that we can build on. The level we can start going up is going to be up in the near future. And also, Committee Member Jay Latorre, sir, is working with the Collins Center. We are looking to see if possibly we may need some technical help in ensuring that this process and this framework is done properly, so that when we go out and we start knocking on doors, that we have something very concrete that's going to stick. I believe that we're looking for funding sources from the Department of Labor and Services so that we can use other people's money for this endeavor. And I don't foresee anybody saying no to other people's money for any grant. So that's the report. We will be meeting this month, and I look forward to give you another report in next month, sir. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Davila. Councilor Santinello?
Yeah, real quick on that report and on that meeting. It did come out at that meeting that many nonprofits in the city of Springfield have single-family and two-family homes, and we have a crisis in the city of Springfield on housing shortages. So that's something that we may be able to explore, maybe in lieu of taxes or whatever, some of that property that these nonprofits hold.
Thank you, Councilor Santinello. Did you want to talk again on that, Councilor Davila?
Yeah, just to elaborate a little bit on what Councilor Santinello just said. That is correct, sir. We do have some colleges in the area that indeed what they're doing is you're creating buffer zones between the college campuses and the community. And so not only do we feel that we are separating the two entities altogether, the community and the colleges, but also we have these houses that could be put in the tax roll and people could be living there. And if they're just going to be used for buffer zones, we need to seriously start looking at the implications, not only in the lives of the people of the city of Springfield, but also how it impacts our budget. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Councilor.
Thank you, Councilor Davila. Councilor Whitfield?
I need to just say that we also need to be very careful that some of the organizations do give back to the community in other ways, and we need to make sure we are clear on what they're giving back and what their economic value is before we start saying that nothing is given back. I'm on the Bay State Community Advisory Board, and I know they give back millions of dollars in grants and also in human capital and things like that. So I just want us to be careful when we're doing this research that we make sure we know exactly what the nonprofits that we are going after for pilots are doing for the community. So I just wanted to say that. And I also have a committee of report. from the
Please.
Civil Rights Committee. We did talk about with Commissioner Oyola, the inactive voter list. I don't remember any counselor that was there because it was probably 2 months ago or so. So I apologize. I think the committee counselors were there, Tim Allen and Victor Davila, but everybody else, I'm sorry if you was there. I still respect you and love you. And Counselor Santinello, anybody else?
I was there.
Okay, Counselor Govan and
Govan.
Counselor Click Bruce. But we had a very informative meeting about how folks are put on the inactive voters list, and also like if they don't fill out their census, how they could be put back on the active voters list, right? And so you can be placed on the inactive voters list for not filling out the census. Is one of the biggest concerns that people had. And then there was people that said, well, I didn't fill out the census, but I wasn't placed on the inactive voters list. And then there are people that said they did fill out the census and was placed on the inactive voters list. Well, for those who were, didn't fill out the census but was not put on the inactive voters list, there are other ways that you'll still be active. So if you signed anyone's petition to run for office, you will still remain an active voter. There's other ways, and I can't remember them all, and I guess I don't have my notes with me, but if anyone wants to know, there were great examples that Commissioner Oyola had for us on how people can still remain on the active voters list as they did not fill out the census. Things that I didn't know, a lot of city councilors did not know. And the report that she had came directly from the state. So it was state-driven information, but it was a great meeting. We learned so much in that meeting. But the thing that I learned is that you could still not fill out your census and be on the active voters list if you sign anybody's position to run for office. And commissioners, you want to help me? I'm struggling a little bit.
No, you did a great job in kind of giving an overview on how you can be. I would say the takeaway from the meeting that we had is that anybody who is registered to vote can vote, right?
Correct.
So whether you're inactive or active, the ability to vote is given to everybody, and if you're not on the list, you still get a provisional ballot.
Yeah, you can get a provisional ballot. You don't have to have a license. You just need to have something that says what your address is in the city of Springfield. So there were some misnomers out in the community on things that were happening. If people are turned away because they're on the inactive voters list, they should contact either one of the city councilors or the elections office, because they shouldn't be turned away just because they're on the inactive voters list. You get a provisional ballot, fill it out, you can still vote, and all is good.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Whitfield. Are there any other reports of committee? Okay. Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll on acceptance of the reports of committee.
On acceptance of the reports of committee, Councilor Walsh.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Allen.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Delgado. Yes, Councilor Click Bruce.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Govan.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Brown.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Davila.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Curran.
Yes.
Present and yes, Councilor Santinello.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Edwards.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Whitfield.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Perez.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Fenton.
Yes, more than sufficient. Committee reports are accepted. We have a zone change referral. This item's been submitted for zone change, East Side Ingersoll Grove. No votes required on this. It will be before the planning board and then be back before the council for a full vote at a hearings meeting. Next item, Madam Clerk, item number 1.
Item 1 is a June revenue versus expenditure report.
Mr. Burns. Madam Clerk, would you mind calling items 1 and 2 together? They're both revenue and expenditures reports.
Item 2 is the August revenue versus expenditure report.
Pat, would you mind speaking to both of them, please?
Certainly. Thank you, Mr. President. Tonight I'm presenting the June revenue versus expenditure report. We had discussed in the Finance Committee earlier today that we would like to send this report to committee for further review. I'm sure councilors are going to have a lot of questions on the year-end results.
Both reports, is that right?
Just the June report.
Oh, okay. So, Madam Clerk, we're going to, is there a motion to?
Because it's an annual report.
To turn your microphone on, please.
The June one is an annual report. We only get one of them a year, and we just need to look at it a little more in detail. So the motion is to put the June one in committee.
Okay, so there's a June report, a motion to refer item number 1, the June revenue and expenditures report to committee by Councilor Allen. Is there a second? Seconded by Councilor Santinello. Madam Clerk, please call the roll on the motion.
On the motion to committee, Councilor Walsh.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Allen.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Delgado.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Click Bruce.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Govan.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Brown.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Davila.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Kern.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Santinello.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Edwards.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Whitfield.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Perez.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Fenton.
Yes, more than sufficient. First item is referred to the Finance Committee. Item number 2, Madam Clerk.
Item 2 is the August revenue versus expenditure report.
Mr. Burns. Get to turn your microphone on, please, Mr. Burns. Thank you.
This represents the first 2 months of fiscal year 2025. As you can see, our revenue is at 18%, whereas our expenditures are slightly higher at 28%. The driving factor behind that is the pension payment that we made on July 1st.
Any questions
which
for
is a
Mr.
yearly
Burns on the
payment.
report? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll on acceptance of the report.
On acceptance of the report, Councilor Walsh.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Allen.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Delgado.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Click Bruce.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Govan.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Brown.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Davila.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Kern.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Santinello.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Edwards.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Whitfield.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Perez.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Fenton.
Yes, more than sufficient. Report is accepted. Thank you, Mr. Burns. Madam Clerk, item number 3.
Item 3 is the transfer to the stabilization reserves to the Law Department, OTPS, in the amount of $1.2 million.
Solicitor Bonacani, good evening.
Thank you, Mr. President. Through you to the members, to the full members of the City Council. This is a request for a transfer out of the stabilization account of $1.2 million to be transferred into the Springfield Law Department's professional service account. The basis for the request, Mr. President, is that the Law Department right now is deficient in funds to continue the defense, the vigorous defense and litigation matters, and also enter into negotiations on matters that are pending before the city.
Thank you, Mr. Solicitor. This was the subject of our executive session earlier today. Any discussion from the council? Okay, Councilor Delgado.
I just wanted to put out a disclaimer that one of the cases we discussed has the state police as defendants, and I just wanted to put it out there that I do work for the Executive Office of Public Safety, but when asked for advisement from our legal counsel, I was advised that I'm able to vote on this, but I just wanted to make sure I put that on the record.
Okay.
And secondly, on another matter from earlier, I did not attend the Finance Committee meeting. I was late, but I did not attend that one.
Thank you, Councilor Delgado. Councilor Santinello, but before you go, Councilor Santinello, we can't discuss any of the specifics of the cases involved. Okay. Councilor Allen?
Thanks, Mr. President. I was in attendance at the executive session, and I'd like to move that we accept the $1.2 million, that we honor this request and approve the $1.2 million. I think the Law Department people had good explanations for what they need the money for, and that while we can't talk about those things in public, we can still give them a vote of trust and respect for the job they're doing and trying to keep our expenses down and trying to bring these cases to justice.
Thank you, Councilor Allen. Any other councilors on the matter? Okay, seeing none. Madam Clerk, please call the roll. Well, I mean, the motion was to call a vote. We don't need a motion for a vote. So if there's no other discussion, then I think we can just proceed to the vote without doing the motion and then having the vote again. Okay? So, Madam Clerk, seeing no further discussion, if you could please call the roll. 2/3 majority is required, 9 votes.
On approval of the transfer, Councilor Walsh.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Allen.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Delgado.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Click-Bruce.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Govan.
Abstain.
Abstain, Councilor Brown.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Davila.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Kern.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Santinello.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Edwards.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Whitfield.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Perez. Yes. Yes, Councilor Fenton.
Yes, more than sufficient. Transfer is approved. Okay. Councilor Edwards?
Thank you, Mr. President. Without objection, I'd like to ask that we take item number 14 out of order.
Okay, item number 14 is collective bargaining agreement ratification for Springfield Police Department. Is there any objection? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call item number 14.
Item 14 is a collective bargaining agreement ratification for the SPSA.
Attorney Mahoney, please turn the microphone on. Thank you.
Good evening, Councilors. Bill Mahoney, Director of HR and Labor Relations. So the negotiations with the Springfield Police Supervisors Association began on February 5th, 2024. The SPSA represents the sergeants, lieutenants, and captains in the Springfield Police Department. There's approximately 71 members in the group. We had about 5 bargaining sessions with the unit, and we had close to 3 mediation sessions as well. We had a 3A hearing scheduled with the Joint Labor Management Committee on September 9th, and just prior to us actually having the hearing, we were able to negotiate a settlement to the contract negotiations. The tentative agreement was ratified by the union on September 19th, which brings us to today. The contract is really 2 contracts. It's one covering the period of July 1, 2024 to June 30th of 2025, and a 3-year contract covering the period of July 1, 2025 to June 30th of 2028. The COLA increases are 3.5% each year for 4 years. And there is an increase in the FTO and the performance evaluation stipends. These stipends were awarded in the interest arbitration that we had for the 2020 to 24 contract period. They were $1,000 each, and we've agreed to increase those to $1,500 each. I believe this contract resolves any bargaining obligation that we would have with respect to the DOJ settlement, and we'd ask that you support it.
Thank you, Attorney Mahoney. Any comments or questions from the council? Okay. Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll on the approval of the collective bargaining agreement.
On approval of the agreement, Councilor Walsh.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Allen.
Councilor Allen, would you like to vote on the collective bargaining agreement? Okay. Would you like to be voted as yes?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, Councilor Delgado.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Click-Bruce.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Govan.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Brown.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Davila.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Kern.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Santinello.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Edwards.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Whitfield.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Perez.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Fenton.
Yes, more than sufficient. The CBA is approved. Item number 4, Madam Clerk. Thank you all for coming tonight.
Item 4 is the Parks Department Park Grant, Blunt Park, Phase 2, in the amount of $500,000.
Ms. Walsh.
Hello, good evening, councilors. Laura Welsh, Senior Parks Project Manager. This is for Blunt Park Phase 2. It's a PARC grant from the state, and the city will be matching it with CDGB funding. And this is to continue the ongoing renovations of Blunt Park, and we will be addressing the second on Roosevelt Ave with the walking path and the softball diamonds, as well as improving the outdoor exercise equipment in that area, as well as tree plantings and site amenities.
Thank you, Ms. Walsh. Any comments or questions on the grant? Councilor Santinello.
Yeah, I just want to say, Laura, you're doing a fantastic job as always. This project has, you're welcome. This project has to be done by 26?
Yes, the timeline, thank you. The timeline is after the acceptance would be into design, and design will be completed and by design I mean construction documents and permitting. That will be completed by June 1st of 2025. It would begin July 1st, 2025, and be completed by June 1st, 2026.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Santinello. Any other councilors? Councilor Delgado.
I just had a quick question. Is this the same dollars that were recently announced? I thought I saw something on the media. There was a $500,000 grants for Blunt Park.
Yes, this is the
The same exact one? All right. No, this is great. I think it's a huge improvement. We've already seen some good improvements to Blunt Park. Definitely taking advantage of those tennis courts for sure. So this is awesome. Love to see more of that across the city. So thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Click Bruce.
Yes, I want to commend Commissioner Ash and also Laura for your work on this. Blount Park is a neighborhood park in our community here in the inner city, so I really like to see the work that's being done there and the improvements. And also want to commend Commissioner Ash on when to do some stuff around the basketball courts, renaming or naming the basketball courts over a legend over there, Rick Marshall, who was a legendary coach in our community, really giving back to inner city kids. And I'm glad to see all the work with the tennis courts and the walking trails and everything that's been put into this park. So again, kudos to Tom Ash and his whole team, and I'm looking forward to all the ribbon cuttings that we're going to have over there. So thank you again.
Thank you for the support.
Thank you, Councilor Click Bruce. Any other councilors? Okay, Councilor Brown.
Thank you, Mr. President. I also want to thank Laura, and I definitely want to thank Tom Ash for the work that he's done, especially in my area. This is a project that we've been working on for a while, and I'm glad to see this phase. The tennis courts are fantastic, and I mean, I can tell you this is a few parks that's been redone, so I do commend you guys and the attention of my area, and definitely thank you for this. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Brown. Councilor Perez.
Yes, I also have to commend them. Ward 1 is recognized as the poorest in the state, and the redevelopment that has occurred down there and continue to occur. It brings pride to the community, seeing those children playing in those newly playgrounds. I mean, sometimes we fight about the monetary monies that we are applying, but in a model like this project, we see the families, how they benefit from it. So I commend Mrs. Walsh and Tom Ash for the fantastic job that they're doing across the city. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Perez. Councilor Whitfield.
Thank you, Mr. President. I wasn't going to say anything, but these projects have been in effect for a long time. I remember talking to Pat Sullivan about the track in the parking lot before Tom Ash took over. So I definitely wanted to give Pat Sullivan his kudos for a lot of these projects are inherited. Laura, you're doing a great job being the project manager. I wanted to say that too. And I don't know if Sequoia was on this particular grant, but just like I said in the subcommittee meeting, last meeting we had like 30 grants, some I never seen before. So I wanted to give the finance department and Sequoia their kudos also for the great job that they're doing, bringing resources to the city. But I just wanted to make sure Pat Sullivan get his flowers because these are not new projects. And I just wanted to make sure that we know that they started with him. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor.
And Tom Ash too for keeping them going. I don't want to leave him out, but you know, Pat had to get his too.
Thank you, Councilor Whitfield. Any other councilors on the grants? Okay, seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll on item number 4.
On approval of the grant, Councilor Walsh.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Allen.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Delgado.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Click Bruce.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Govan.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Brown.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Davila.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Curran.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Santinello.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Edwards.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Whitfield.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Perez.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Fenton.
Yes, more than sufficient. Grant is approved. Item number 5, Madam Clerk.
Item number 5 is an FY24 Brownfields Cleanup Grant, no match required, in the amount of $500,000.
Good evening.
Oh, 5 million.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good evening, councilors. The order before you tonight is the $5 million EPA Brownfields Award for the environmental cleanup for the former Chapman Valve site in Indian Orchard. The address is known as ES Pinevale. It is a 16-acre site that has been vacant for approximately 30 years. The grant would mainly cover the soil removal, contamination in the soil, included metals, PCBs, asbestos, so soil removal would accomplish that cleanup. And we're expecting to begin activity within the year.
Thank you. Comments or questions from Councilor Santinello?
Yeah, real quick. How much of this grant will that cover this project? Will you need more money after, or is this just a phase, like a phase 1?
It won't be a phase 1, it'll just be the cleanup, and the $5 million award covers the whole project. There'll be no city match required.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other councilors? Okay. Councilor Govan?
If I may, thank you. Thank you, Mr. President. I'm really excited about this grant. I know that Wellspring Harvest and Wellspring Cooperative have been working on this for a long time, and I think it's going to be a great benefit to the city as well as to the neighbors there, because I think they're gonna expand the greenhouse, which I'm very excited about. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Councilor Govan. Seeing no other councilors, Madam Clerk, please call the roll on acceptance of the grant.
On acceptance of the grant, Councilor Walsh.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Allen.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Delgado.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Quick Bruce.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Govan.
Yeah.
Yes, Councilor Brown.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Davila.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Curran.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Santinello.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Edwards.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Whitfield.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Perez.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Fenton.
Yes, more than sufficient. Grant is approved. Item number 6, Madam Clerk.
Item number 6 is a Springfield City Library donation in the amount of $300,000.
Good evening, Ms. Fogarty.
Good evening, Mr. President. Thank you. This is a $300,000 payment towards the Promise Realized campaign that our Library Foundation started for the East Forest Park branch library. So of the $2 million, they have raised $1,900,000. We're basically $50,000 short, so it won't be finished till it's finished, and we're still working on it. And this $300,000 is the payment to the city, and so far the foundation has given $1.7 million of the $2 million to the city.
Thank you. Any comments or questions on the grant? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
On acceptance of the donation, Councilor Walsh.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Allen.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Delgado.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Quick Bruce.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Govan.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Brown.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Davila.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Curran.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Santinello.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Edwards.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Whitfield.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Perez.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Fenton.
Yes, more than sufficient. Donation is approved.
Thank you.
Madam Clerk, items number 7, 8, and 9 are all below our threshold. Can you please read them all together, these grants?
Item number 7 is the Springfield City Library donation in the amount of $100. Item number 8 is of FY25 Libraries cash donations in the amount of $89. And item number 9 is an FY25 Municipal Road Safety Grant, no match required, in the amount of $59,999.
Okay, Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll on acceptance of the grants?
On acceptance of the grants, Councilor Walsh.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Allen.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Delgado. Away, Councilor Click Bruce.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Govan.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Brown.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Davila.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Curran.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Santinello.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Edwards.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Whitfield. Yes. Yes, Counselor Perez?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Fenton?
Yes, more than sufficient. Grants are approved. Item number 10, Madam Clerk.
Item number 10 is the bills of prior year, various departments in the amount of $4,395.
Good evening, Ms. Bono.
Periodically, we come in front of the council for prior year bills, for your authorization to pay prior year bills in the current fiscal year. Right now, we have $4,395.03 in prior year bills from various departments. We just need your authorization to pay them with current year funds.
Any comments or questions from the council? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
On approval of the bills of prior year, Counselor Walsh?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Allen?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Delgado?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Quick Bruce?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Govan?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Brown?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Davila?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Kern?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Santinello?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Edwards?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Whitfield?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Perez?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Fenton?
Yes, more than sufficient. Prior year bills are approved. Item number 11, Madam Clerk.
Item 11 is an appropriation order for taking damages for the Sumner Avenue project, Route 83, also known as the X Improvement Project, in the amount of $569,900.
Mr. Signoli.
Good evening, councilors. Chris Signoli, DPW Director. Before you tonight, we have two items involving the X project. Item number 11 is the appropriation order, and item 12 is the order of taking for the project. Overview of the X project: it is a $16+ million project. Construction will be completed by Mass DOT. The project is out to bid with bids opening tomorrow on the project. It is a fiscal 24 project, federal fiscal year. So it was advertised in August of 24, so it's part of the federal fiscal year. In front of you tonight, the easements and takings. For the record, we have 4 partial takings on the projects totaling $98,770. Those parcels are all, 3 of them, the major ones, are basically involved with the CVS TD Bank property that have a handful of parcels as the way that that whole area is made up. And a leftover one is actually a parcel across the street at the corner of Commonwealth and Belmont for 41 square feet. We have 5 permanent easements on the project, and the permanent easements are basically for sign locations throughout the projects, and that totals $7,000. And then the rest are temporary construction easements that occur on Belmont, Dickinson, Sumner, Oakland, Ormond, Lenox, Cliffwood, Burlington, and Commonwealth Avenue as part of the project. There are 128 of them total. That totals $464,130. As part of the process through Mass DOT, Mass DOT notifies the city as to when we can perform the appraisals. We were notified back in early summer. We completed all the appraisals over the summer. They were completed in the middle of August. And notification, we are required to send out notification to all property owners via certified mail, which was done. And the second item is that it has to be at least 30 days prior to this meeting. All those were done, so they were all sent. We actually were trying to get the agenda for September, but we couldn't get all of the appraisals completed. So we are waiting for the October meeting for that to be completed. The appraisal process was handled through the law department, and all property owners have been notified. At this time, we have met with a handful of them throughout the course of the project. The project started in 2014, so we are on year 10 of this project, and over the life of the project, we held 6 public hearings, and the most recent one was last fall at the completion of the 100% design and completion of the final environmental impact review for the project that was state mandated through the Mass DOT. The project, obviously, as I mentioned, is out to bid right now. Bids are opening tomorrow. The intent would be that construction would start in earnest next spring. I know I've received some inquiries about the construction that's going on there now. That is all electric and gas work that is being completed ahead of the project. And I would anticipate that probably sometime in the dead of winter, we would have a kickoff with the selected contractor for the state. It is a state-run project. The state will oversee it, and the state is paying for the entire construction. There is a small piece of it where the city is paying for on some items that we wanted into the project, and that's being paid for out of our Chapter 90 money. And the payments that we are doing as part of this item in front of you tonight is also being paid out of our Chapter 90 account to all of the property owners. The easements that we are getting are all 6-year easements. Just to let everybody know, we are not talking about 6 years of construction. We are talking about 6 years for the total construction to be complete. You have two choices at this point. It's either 3 years or 6 years. And if a project gets delayed for any reason, you then have to go through if you have 3 years and it gets delayed beyond that, you then have to go through the entire appraisal process again. So we opt for the longer one. If somebody's property is being impacted, it will be impacted for the period of time during the construction. All of the temporary construction easements that I mentioned, 128 of them, are basically all because the entire project is getting brand new sidewalks. And we were required by Mass DOT to obtain construction easements on private property in order for those sidewalks to be constructed. So basically, if you're a business or you're a resident and we're going to be constructing a sidewalk in front of your property, you're going to be getting a new sidewalk, a new driveway ramp, and we have an easement to be able to enter the property, to be able to form the sidewalk, complete the work associated with it. When that work is complete, I say the project is basically off of your property at that point. A couple questions that have come up today. People were asking about, hey, if I have an easement that's on my property, does that mean I can't use it? No, you get to use your property at all times. You get to coordinate with the contractor on the impact. Everybody will always have access to their properties at all times, with the exception of maybe a few hours while they're pouring concrete. But that's going to be coordinated through the contractor, that they're going to be required to communicate and coordinate with all of the property owners on the project. So at this point, councilors, we are looking for approval to certify the takings and easements for the project, and I would be happy to answer any questions that any of the councilors have.
Thank you, Mr. Signoli. Councilor Whitfield. Oh, then we'll do Councilor Dunn.
Thank you, Mr. President. I wanted to just say a couple of things really quick because we're going to hear we just found out about this today, which is not true because the city council meetings have to be by law posted, 48 hours before the meeting. So this did not just happen today. The notices did not just go out to city residents today. They went out over 30 days ago. What we heard Paul come up to the podium and talk about at public speak out, or the person representing his business, they had wrong information. So we stopped and talked to Chris because he said parking spaces were going to be taken. He's one of the properties that are getting the temporary easement, meaning he's getting a new sidewalk and a new driveway. No parking spots are being taken. He can still use his property during the construction phase. So that is also not true. There's been 6 public speak outs. I remember, so I've been on the council 6 years. This started before me in 2014, but I remember it coming to us quite a few times, and I remember the trees. Always remember the trees. They were originally gonna take away 140 trees. They got that down to 40 trees, and all those trees will be replaced. So we're not gonna lose trees. And we did not just get this information today. It's been 10 years in the making. And if we don't approve it today, we run the risk of losing $16 million of federal funds. And then how how likely is the federal government going to look at projects of this magnitude in the city of Springfield if we irresponsibly deny this approval of giving us money in the future? I don't want to give back $16 million when we complain a lot about that intersection over in that Belmont, Dickinson, it's not Six Corners, that's the X, yeah, the X neighborhood. And this is going to bring significant improvements to the sidewalks, to driveways, to the road itself, and going to be some water and sewage improvements, electrical improvements. I don't know why we would not approve this, but I'm going to vote my conscience and I'm going to approve it because I do not want the federal government nor the state looking at the city of Springfield of giving back $16 million. So I just wanted to make those points clear. We also are city councilors. We can host our own meetings. We can create awareness with the community ourselves. I do it very often on Facebook and other avenues very often. And if we want to host meetings and talk about these things, it is our right to do so. And so I just wanted to say those points, and thank you, Mr. President. I'll be voting for this.
Thank you, Councilor Whitfield. Any other councilors who'd like to be heard next?
Mr. President?
Councilor Dowd, would you like to go after or before Councilor Perez? Okay, Councilor Perez.
I'm also going to be voting in support. I think one of the biggest issue is when the students get out of school there, the safety part of it is what concerned me at the X. So at this point, looking at $60 million plus the safety that it's going to bring to the community, I will be voting in support. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Perez. Councilor Dowd.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have to say, Mr. President, I was expressed before, this project has been in the books for a while, at least in the time that I've been in the council. In fact, Mr. President, I remember when I was the president of the Forest Park Civic Association that we started talking about this. And I remember hosting meetings to talk about the trees, which one of the councilors just mentioned a little while ago. I was in the thick of it at the time, and yet here we are. I realize this project, Mr. President, has been delayed by COVID and other issues, but yet here we are. I find myself, Mr. President, thinking that this is not a want, this is indeed a need, because it does not escape me that that's a very dangerous interception. You know, I had the privilege when I first joined the council of going over with Chris and sitting down and seeing in the middle of a snowstorm, Mr. President, how people so blatantly went through the red light in the middle of a storm. I live there. It's my neighborhood, it's my ward. I know what it's like. And it's a dangerous intersection. And neither do I, like I'm sure any of our colleagues, is itching to give money back to the federal government. But I'm a little ticked off right now. And why am I ticked off? And I will be asking Chris a question in a second. But we were told, the Finance Committee, to describe one of the councilors, that we were giving ultimatum. I don't deal well with ultimatums. Too much of a rebel. I hate when people tell me, if you don't do this today, kiss it goodbye tomorrow. Well, this should have been brought beforehand. I don't set the agenda. I don't move the project forward, nor am I going to be asking, why are we here? I think it's a good question to ask. Why are we here now? So, actually, no, I'm going to ask that question to Chris, Mr. President. Chris, why are we voting on this now? I know you say something about the state giving you the time frame, but did they tell you yesterday? When did they tell you that this needs to be done now?
We have to have the land takings easements in place prior to the project bids being opened. We were notified back in April, May by Mass DOT, since the 100% design had been approved, you are now can start the appraisal process. As part of what we have to do land appraisals. We then have to contract after that for review appraisals. Then we have to contact for deed research. That took the entire summer up until the beginning of August, when all the information was then gathered from the companies that did all that work, provided to the law department, and the letters were sent out to the property owners in the middle of August to the first week of September. Every property owner had to be notified minimum of 30 days before the meeting. Again, our hope was that we would be doing this in September, but because we didn't receive all the information, everything had to be done at once in October. All of the information was provided to us by the appraisal company and title company probably the first week of August. And at that point, it was then compiled and sent out to the property owners.
Right.
So when I was in front of the council 3 weeks ago for the traffic control agreement, I notified the councilors then that we would be coming in front of you for the easements and land takings at the next meeting, as we had to send out all of the notifications that were all sent out.
Right. And Chris, how many people are going to be impacted, including businesses, with this? I know I have the list here, I just didn't count.
There are 128 properties along all of the corridors that are going to be directly impacted as part of the project. Most of those, as I mentioned, are going to be sidewalk reconstruction, driveway reconstruction, et cetera, as well as obviously all the work that's going to go on within the roadway. So we're talking about 128 or so different properties.
Okay. And so, Chris, just for the purpose of transparency, again, I think we need this project for safety. But for the purpose of transparency, did I hear you correctly saying that if we don't approve this today, we could lose the money?
Yes. Because I have to then report to Mass DOT tomorrow that the easements and land takings are not in place, and then it gets turned into their hands.
Right.
And again, the money was appropriated for fiscal '24. So I've run into this before where Mass DOT has basically said, since they're not in place, we have to rebid the project. And in order to rebid the project, they then have to go and move all the money from fiscal years. It then has to be voted on by all of the towns in the Pioneer Valley area through the Pioneer Valley Planning Commission and the Joint Transportation Committee that we have to go through, and we had to jump through hoops to get all of the funding for this project to begin with. So being a huge project, the entire region only gets about 27 million a year. This is taking up probably about 2/3 of that money. So a little less than 2/3 of the money. So this project kind of controls everything that's going on in the region in this fiscal year.
No.
The only other project of this size that's going on right now is Memorial Avenue in West Springfield that I believe might be about 12 or 13 million. I may be wrong on that number.
I hear you, Chris. I believe you say that it's been going on for 12 years now?
Yeah, 10. It started in 2014, so 10 years.
So I'm just out of curiosity. So I know that this was impacted by COVID, so we take 3 or 4 years out of that equation, out of those 10. What happened to the 6? What held it up? Just out of curiosity.
When we have a project that goes in front of Mass DOT, we had to do the study phase, which was, I believe, a 3-year process. When we had that, we then made application to the state for a project. The project at that time was probably about $12 million. When we then put the project gets voted on to get put on the tip, it gets put on a 5-year plan. So we basically, any project of any reasonable size is going to be on the tip for a minimum of 5 years. This was placed on the tip back in 2018 as part of their double 5-year plan for fiscal year 24. The date for fiscal 24 has always been there as the target for the project. So anytime during the fiscal year 24, federal fiscal year, so that's October to September, the project can go out to bid. So they elected to go out to bid in August of this year. It was supposed to go out in April, but because of, we ended up having to do a full environmental impact evaluation on the project, which delayed it about 4 or 5, 6 months. That was done last year, and we had a public hearing on all that work. So it basically, the project has been on schedule, and whether COVID or any other things going on, the project itself has not slipped from fiscal year. And if it does, any project, whether it's ours or any other community, when it slips fiscal years, you basically have hell to pay in front of the Joint Transportation Committee, because all the towns then have to vote on it. So we've been on target with the schedule on this project. Design-wise has been done, and the last step is obviously the land takings and the easements.
I understand, and I thank you for that, Chris. And like I said, this is it's a critical project, and I'm sure you can relate to us councilors where no matter what we do, we're never going to please everybody. Everyone's going to have a different opinion, right? For God's sakes, we got 13 of here, we'll have a different opinion, and that's okay. So no matter what we do, somebody is going to be unhappy with this project, no matter what we do. I'm very aware of that. But people come to us and they tell us things, and I don't think any of us are expected to go out and verify 128 properties to make sure that just there's some reasonable stuff not going to happen, right? Besides, it's not a scope. With that being said, Mr. President, I think this is a big project. I think that this project, I'm sure for whatever reason, people were not able to be heard. And given the magnitude of this project, not only the economic impact, Mr. President, of the $16 to $22 million, but also on the safety aspect. If you indulge me, Mr. President, I think if you allow it, I would like to give a minute of my time to Mr. Robert Naser, if at all possible, who is one of the persons affected, to give his opinion, which he was not able to do before, if you indulge me, Mr. President.
That's fine. Come forward, sir. Why don't you state your name and address and say what you've got to say?
Thank you.
What did you say, Councilor Davila? A minute? All right.
Thank you, Councilor Davila, for yielding your time. My name is Robert Naser. Thank you, councilors, for having me this evening. My property that I own is at 590 Sumner Ave, which is the Sumner Bank property. And just for the record, I did receive my first notice about the X project in October of 2023. And subsequent to that, I have been in touch many times with the engineering department and with the solicitor's office about the impact on my project, on my property. I can tell you that it's not only the taking of land, it's not only the temporary easements but it's also changing the functionality and the accessibility to your property as well, and closing of curb cuts. I'm at the point now, and I have to say that there were some changes that were accommodating to me and to my tenant as Santander Bank, but I'm still at the point that despite these changes, they're contemplating terminating their lease and leaving the property, which is going to be a significant impact on the property and the neighborhood and my business. I guess in closing, I just wanted to say that I would like to, this is the issue that I have to deal with. I'm stuck between the city and my tenant. I want to find a solution. I just implore the city to continue at all costs, whatever it takes, work with the landowners and the property owners to try to find a solution that will work. I don't want to spend the next 6 to 10 years of my life litigating this.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you for enjoying that. Thank you, Mr. President. Those are my words.
Okay, thank you. Any other councilors? Councilor Walsh.
Trying to find the green. Okay. Thank you, Mr. President. It was brought up in the, this easement, temporary easements and the taking, it wasn't even on the agenda for the Financial Committee when we met. And it was brought up in committee by the committee chair, who you heard from tonight, Councilor Allen, myself, Councilor Davila, and I personally feel this is an awful lot of information that you want us to swallow and vote on and be threatened with the loss of the project. I don't think that's how this should be done. I don't think that's how the council should be treated. You know, in the past, when it's eminent domain, Kathy Tarpey always came to us. She told us about the projects. She told us what was happening. She interacted with all the people that were impacted. I don't know if that's gone on. I do not feel comfortable voting on this because there's the gentleman that came forward. There's Reverend Feliciano in the audience. I don't know if he would like to speak. He's at Calvary Love Church. He's impacted by all this. And I don't think it's right that if we have questions, we can't refer this to committee. I'm going to make the motion, see what happens. It isn't the way we should be doing business. We should have the opportunity to question this if we want to question it, and we shouldn't be told that if we don't do it, the project goes away. I think that's very disrespectful to the city council. And I'll make a motion to send it to committee.
Okay. Councilor Walsh has made a motion to committee. Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
Seconded by Councilor Allen. Any other discussion on the matter of the motion? Councilor Brown.
Thank you, Mr. President. I had a question for Chris. Is that over there where the Asian market? I think there's an Asian market over there. That's like over where the Taco Bell and all that is, correct? On Sumner?
Correct.
I know where you're talking about right there, where Sumner, where that CVS is. You guys made that a no parking based on that, and you sold the parking lot to that Asian grocery. So all the other businesses and the church right there, there's no parking. So anytime they would park, if they park in that other parking lot, they'll just get towed by the owner, because we gave the property to that parking lot to the property owner there. So those businesses that are on the long side of that, you're gonna make that no parking, and there's a church right there that I attend. That now will be no parking, and the members have no way to sit there and park. They just keep getting told if they park right there in that Asian market. Do you know what I'm talking about, Chris?
Yeah, that lot was owned by the Springfield Parking Authority. Wasn't owned by the city.
Okay.
And that was sold, I want to say 20-something years ago?
Yeah.
Privately sold. It's the one that's adjacent to, I'm drawing a blank on the restaurant. That's on Belmont.
Counselor Davio would go there.
Yeah, they're the,
Christos.
I can't remember the restaurant's name now, I'm drawing a blank. But that lot has been private property for about 20 years. Yeah, it was originally owned by the parking authority, and I have no idea how they had that lot to begin with, but I know they were the entity that sold it.
So Chris, when you're talking about now in front of those businesses right there, you're taking away parking right there, correct?
No, we're adding parking. Everything, that area is going to go from parallel parking to angled in parking, so they're gaining about, I think it's total of about 8 spaces in that whole area, 8 or 9 spaces as to what is there now. So there's going to be more parking in front of those businesses on Belmont Avenue.
Okay, so because I just want to make sure, because I know that they did have a little discrepancy with that parking lot over there with Chris.
Yeah. Yep.
All right. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Brown. Any other councilors? Councilor, have you been heard from yet, Councilor Allen? I don't think so. Councilor Allen, then we'll go back to Councilor Whitfield. Councilor Allen.
Thanks, Mr. President. I have kind of a lot to say. I'll try to distill it. We get put in this spot too often. The spot that Chris brought up, and when I said we'll put it in committee, when this came up in the 4:30 Finance Committee, was that we're up against a deadline. We didn't know that. How are we supposed to know that unless somebody tells us? And we got 128 people whose properties are affected by this. Total respect and trust for Chris. This has been a tough job. He always does a tough job like this. This is 10 years of trying to get this to this point. I feel for you, but we should have known more that we were in a position that we might have to vote for something that we don't really have full knowledge of. You have, but we don't. And we can't provide, if we provide an outlet for neighbors to come and speak about the impact this has on them, then we run the risk of losing the money. It's an unreasonable position to be put in. And I wish there was, I would offer to sit in your office tomorrow with you and call the people who are the decision makers at the state and let's tell them, we just need a little more time. And you know way more about that than I do, but I can't believe that 10 years of work could go away like that because of this ultimatum, that if we don't pass it tomorrow. It's just unreasonable. A project as big as this, it's one of the big, you just said it's one of the two biggest ones in Western Mass right now, or this area. It's unfortunate. We got people here, somebody at Public Speak Out tonight, the person that Victor just brought up, all affected by it. And maybe it would take a couple hours to go through it. I don't know what it would take. But our job is, in addition to fiscal oversight, our job is also to represent the people of the city. And I don't think, I'm going to support a move to committee because I just think it's the right thing to do. Does it put some money at risk? Well, maybe it does. I can't believe that 10 years would go out the window because we didn't vote for something by tomorrow. That's just unreasonable. With people, smart people who work things out, harder things than this work out, let's get the right people in a room and try to get a couple more weeks out of them and get people the opportunity to speak their mind about this and to have a reasonable conversation. I don't want this to be, brute force. Brute force, we got to do it by tomorrow. Brute force isn't any way to solve problems. People talking about things is how you solve problems. And, the deadline, if the deadline was the deadline, we should have known about it earlier. It's just kind of unreasonable. And so, Chris, I have great respect for you and for your work, but I disagree with you on this one. I think your effort should be not trying to get us to vote for this tomorrow. Your effort should try to get us a couple more weeks. And so we can have a reasonable maintenance and development meeting. We can involve the mayor or whatever. We have to call somebody, whatever, and just come out with, let people have their say. 128 properties. And I know they know up to you said the last public hearing was last fall. Well, that's 12 months ago. It's nice that you had 5 or 6 public hearings, but now we're at the end. So, I'm going to support the move to committee. I know some of you have already said you're not going to do that, whatever, but I'm voting on behalf of the taxpayers to have a chance to get to a meeting that would once and for all include some counselors and some other people to learn a little bit about it. I don't like doing this. I don't like being in this position, but when I drove down here at 4:30 for that meeting, I didn't know this. And now it's 8:30 or whatever it is. And I think for me, that's the right thing to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Allen. Councillor Whitfield.
Thank you, Mr. Fenton, Councillor, President. I messed your name all the way up, Councillor Fenton. I'm just going to say this as respectfully as I can. We knew. There has been 6 public speakouts. The design has been tailored based on the public speakouts. Did we know that this approval had to happen tonight in order for us to not lose money? No. Do I like more advance notice? Absolutely. So I'm going to agree with you on that. But we still have 2 hours to sit here and ask any questions that we want and find out whatever we want without sending this to committee. I heard the gentleman that just came up, Paul's representative, which I said earlier, in public speak out, he did not have accurate information. He hugged me and Councilor Perez. We both went and talked to him. and said he was given misinformation. There are 128 properties being affected by temporary easements, meaning none of their land is being taken. They're actually getting improvements in front of their lands via sidewalks and ramps. We don't know 100%, I'm going to agree with you on that, if the government or the state will take this money back, but do we want to risk that? Do we want to risk $16 million because we're not comfortable with how the process went? That, to me, is not fiscally responsible. And there are a lot of improvements that are going to happen, more parking, more sidewalks, better sidewalks. Do we want to risk that for our residents? I don't. There's going to be improvements to the water and sewer, to the electricity to the streets. Do I want to risk that? No, I don't. Because we are not 100% sure. But if what Chris is saying is true, then we lose $16 million of construction improvement that we desperately need. I do have a quick question for Chris. How is the church being affected? Because I think that property keeps being brought up, and we don't know how that particular property is being affected.
Which church?
The church that Councilor Walsh mentioned. Calvary Church. Pastor? Who's the pastor? Oh, he left? Calvary Church?
Which one's the Calvary?
Across from the old Friendlies.
They're getting across from Forest Park School? They're getting new sidewalks.
So it's a temporary easement, meaning nothing is being taken. They're going to have a temporary easement. And let's talk about the temporary easement. All that means is while the construction is going on in that particular parcel, there will be a temporary easement to do the construction. Once the construction is done on that parcel, then the easement for that particular area is not, well, it's technically still there, but it's not. And they can still use the property. They're going to have better sidewalks for their parishioners. And that is just not a problem to me. I hear the gentleman that's talking about the bank and maybe the bank leaving. Well, we can still have a discussion. Nothing has been built yet. It's not too late to still have a discussion, but it will be too late if we lose this money. It will be too late. There is not a second chance to get it back. And how bad do we look to the state and federal government for giving back $16 million? Those are the things that we need to consider. If we want to have a discussion, we still got about an hour and a half to do it. What else is the issue? We heard about the church. We heard about Paul. Nothing's being taken. He's getting a new ramp. He's getting new sidewalks. He was misinformed, and he was informed to come here by someone who was also misinformed and do the public speak out. We got that cleared away. By the end of that, he hugged me and Councilor Perez, said, thank you. Next time I'll call you guys first. That is also something that our community residents can do. They can give us a call, city councilors, not just the engineering department, and we can also help with the process of making sure we understand and they understand. Sending this to committee is not the right thing to do. We run the risk of losing $16 million because there's an ultimatum on the table. Well, the ultimatum is here now. So what are we going to do? We're going to send this to committee, run the risk of getting nothing, or we're going to improve it, improve the process for the future. We're going to approve it. And then in the future, Chris is on notice. Chris, don't do that again, Chris. You send that information to the residents, you send it to us. So we are made aware and we can have discussions in a timely manner. I mean, I think that's the appropriate thing to do, but we're going to give up the improvements that we can do for our community residents because of something like that, a discussion that's been going on for 10 years, and there has been 6 public meetings, and there has been changes based on what the community says. Does not make logical sense to me. So again, I will not vote on the motion to send this to committee, and I'm going to vote to approve this request. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Whitfield. Councilor Davila wants to be heard, but Councilor Perez, you have not spoken yet on the subject. Is that okay with you, Councilor Davila? Councilor Perez?
Yes, I have to say again, I had a family many years ago that one of the children was impacted crossing that area. That is a very dangerous area. And having more crosswalks in that area is part of the safety initiative. And I cannot vote against something that I know that it's going to prevent lives. So I will be voting in support, and I see it as more as a safety issue. A little while ago, I said about the families, you know, when it comes to issues that have been proven factor, and I wish I would have the information. I thought everyone was, you know, in a consensus of this project. I would have asked from the police, the traffic department, the appropriate department, how many accidents has occurred in that area, you know, that it brings it to a safety issue. And I know there's been a quite, because I know family, Hispanic, Latino family that have been encountered at that. I cannot sit here tonight and vote against a project that I know is going to bring a safety in the community. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Perez. Councilor Davila, then we'll do Councilor Santinello, and then we've got some over here who want to be heard.
Thank you so much. Mr. President, this is a very difficult vote. It really is, to go to committee or not to go to committee. If we vote the project through tonight, we still have the opportunity to meet with the people that are affected by this.
Yep.
But if we vote to send it to committee, we could jeopardize the whole project. It's a very, very difficult, we're between a rock and a hard place on this one. So I tend to opt to say, let's vote for it and then meet with the people that are affected by it starting tomorrow.
Thank you, Councilor Santinello. Councilor Davila.
Mr. President, Councilor Santinello, that they say great minds think alike, and that's sort of where my thinking was. Before I ask a couple of questions, I do have to say that as we were talking, I'm thinking about Councilor Walsh. There's an ordinance that Councilor Walsh passed a while ago about a 30-day notice for financial orders. And I bring that up, sir, because it's not the first time that we're put in this position. And that's really egging me. It's really egging me. And it's not that the ultimatum is here or the ultimatum is not there. I don't really care where the ultimatum is. But it's not the first time that this happens. And what does it say to us as a body? I'm not going to blame or put blame one way or the other, but when do we say enough is enough? Right? When do we say enough is enough? Whether it's 60 million, whether it's $1, when is enough is enough. Everybody has to answer that question for themselves. Right? And again, it does not escape me the importance of this project. It does not escape me one bit. But again, to put it on the record, I'm really annoyed with this situation that we're on. If you may, Mr. President, if I could ask Madam Clerk, have we received any other notification from residents on these 128 properties that are affected that we don't know about? Is there any communication of concern that we have not heard as of yet?
We haven't received anything for or against that hasn't been shared with the council to date.
Okay, Madam Clerk, is that through the City Council office or through you, to the clerks?
It's typically through the City Council office, but any communications they do share with me and they're shared with the council as well.
Okay, thank you, Madam Clerk. Chris, following Councilor Santinello's thinking, sir, if we approve this today, would you make a commitment to sit down with the people affected who may have issues to try to find a solution within reason?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And everybody who has received these notices, a handful did reach out to us, and we've talked to them, and some cases we've spoken with their attorneys. And anybody else who has questions about what we're doing, I'm happy. My engineering staff and the designers happy to sit down with them and go over what we're doing. And again, I want to keep saying on this project, we're building sidewalks. I mean, we're building a road, but the impact of these properties are sidewalks. If the DPW was building these, we could go in tomorrow and rip up the sidewalk and do not have to get easements, don't have to get anything, and we can do it. And, you know, that's why it is a big number. Everybody that we've spoken to, we've basically said, you know, the impact to your property is we're building a sidewalk in front of your property. And, you know, that's the major impact. All the intersections are getting brand new traffic signals. As Councilor Perez said, new crossings up and down Sumner Avenue because of all the pedestrian problems that are there. So from a project perspective, the safety is going to be greatly increased as well. So I just want to, you know, the impact of these properties is, you know, no, we're not taking people's land. No, we're not going to be on your property for 6 years. We're building you a new sidewalk.
Right.
With that.
Chris, first of all, thank you for your commitment to meeting with those people affected. And also, you know, just to be clear, it concerns me, like Mr. Nassar, who has been there for a long time. You know, I think he has a right to be heard. That's why I gave him a minute of my time to express his concern, because his property is a staple of the community. Is he going to be fully happy? Probably not. But at least we tried. We heard him out. Chris, at least with me, you have always been straightforward. You have not lied to me, nor do I expect you to. You always kept your word with me. So I do believe you when you make that commitment. And so what I'm going to do, I'm going to ask my colleagues, since I'm the ward councilor, although I'm still not happy with this thing of being against the wall, sword, what is it, the sword and the wall and the sword? Is that what they're saying? Against the wall and the sword. I have to be a leader and I have to look above everything else. And so with that in mind, I will vote for this project, Chris. Ticked off, but I will vote for it. And so, and because of the lateness that we've been informed about this. And so, but gives me great ease that you will meet with them, that you will hear the concerns and make adjustments if appropriate and whenever necessary. I do ask that perhaps if I believe is the motion can be withdrawn so that we can pass this as the ward councilor, I think it would be appropriate to do so at this point. Okay. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Davila. Councilor Click-Bruce.
Thank you, Council President. First of all, I want to thank Councilor Davila for stepping up, because I was waiting for that for the ward councilor to say his piece. And first, I want to also say that I'm going to be in favor of this project. Secondly, Councilor Whitfield made several key points, and I was trying to put my hand up on the subcommittee meeting to say it on the record there, but I wanted to say it here. Public safety is near and dear to my heart, and I believe this is going to improve our situation over at the X. We had a project similar to, we had a Duggan project where we did Breckwood Boulevard. We installed some sidewalks, and I really didn't hear any complaints with that project, and I think the residents over there are very happy. Yes, it's a lot of houses, a lot of residents, a lot of businesses that are being affected. But I think what Chris said tonight, he's willing to listen to our residents, listen to our business owners, to see if we can come with some solutions that are reasonable. So I think for us, we have to do what's right on behalf of the city. And I think that the right thing is to vote this, and then we hold Chris accountable. And also, I think what we said as well is putting them on notice moving forward, because I do believe we should have something in place where a 30-day notice or whatever the case may be that the city council should be notified. So how do we do that? So that us as councilors have to put something together. We come up with all these these situations every time, but then we don't follow through. And I'm saying we don't follow through. I'm not calling anybody out. So we have to follow through on our end. So again, Chris, I look to support this because I believe it's the right thing to do for our city, and I'm always going to vote in the essence of the city and of our residents. So thank you, Council President.
Thank you, Councilor Click Bruce. Councilor Delgado.
I'm actually going to yield my time back. A lot of my questions were answered by Councilor Whitfield. My concerns were just really around, I saw the temporary easements, but the bigger piece for me was the 9 or so parcels that were partial or permanent. Those really were my questions in terms of, like I see, for instance, 497 Belmont, 57 square feet impacted. Is that, when you say 57 square feet, is that what you are taking, or was there more taking and then you're giving some back? How does that work?
Those are permanent easements, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Those are permanent easements. Yeah. The owner retains the right to the property, but basically what is going to be installed on that property is a sign. So rather than taking the property from them, we're just going to be putting an easement around that. So, you're talking, one case, 24 square feet, 4 by 4, 5 by 5 area that becomes a permanent easement, so that if a sign is there, needs to be switched out, gets hit, we can go in and do that through the easement process so that we have an easement on the property. Similar to, throughout the city, the city and/or water and sewer has easements on people's property for drainage lines and things like that. So the permanent easement is the owner retains the right to the property, and there's just going to be a sign placed there.
All right, got it. I might have lied about yielding my time back, but I do sympathize with my colleagues in terms of the same thing that's been mentioned about timing. But after all, hearing everything, I'm going to vote in favor of this. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Delgado. Councilor Allen.
Thanks, Mr. President. My issues have not been the sidewalks or my issue is simply inclusion of people. That's my issue. And when we do something to people, they should have a chance, or we change their property. And I know there was reach out, but there wasn't great reach out lately, it doesn't sound like. So my issue isn't the bike lanes or the sidewalks and the low impact that they are, or the benefits they're getting. My issue is including people and reaching out and giving every opportunity we have to give people a chance to speak about something we're doing to their property, even if it's beneficial, which apparently a lot of this is beneficial. And that is, to me, that's, you've all heard the phrase DEIB, diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. Inclusion is a part of that. And that is a major part of how I do my city council job, that we include people in the process as much as we can, so they feel like they belong to a community. And, I didn't feel like that group of people has been included like they should. So my one more question, some good points have been made. This discussion is a good discussion. I appreciate what Victor did recently. I appreciate Tracy's comments. But clearly, people were not included as much as they could have been. And that's a big part of how I teach my classes. It's a big part of how I do this job. So I would ask you this, Chris. When we approve special permits here, or when they come before us, we always ask, have you been to the Civic Association? So I ask you, have you been to the Civic Association?
I probably have been to the Forest Park Civic Association on this project 6 to 8 times.
All right, and what was their, that's great. What was their response?
And that's not even including the public hearings. The major issue that we dealt with on this project was trees. When the original design came out, MassDOT wanted us to severely widen the roadway, which was going to impact trees. So we went back, basically redesigned the whole project so that we had less impact to the trees, much, much less impact to the trees, where the concept of the project stayed where it is. So we had a number of neighborhood meetings as well as the public hearings. And as I mentioned before, the notice for the takings was done at least a month and a half ago for most people. But prior to that, they also received notification a couple, 3-4 months before that the project was going to be happening. Their property was to be impacted and to contact us, and we did talk with probably a half dozen people at that point with it. So the property owners who are being impacted have had a couple notices throughout the project. The most recent would have been for this particular thing with the notification of their, I'm going to use the word award for lack of a better term, compensation for the impacts to their property. So we've had a number of public hearings. I presented it in front of the Civic Association. And as I mentioned, the last time was last fall when we were at 100% design on the project. And since then, we've just been waiting to go out to bid.
Okay, so that's a great answer. Appreciate that. Appreciate the work, Victor, you did to see if Chris would meet with people who might have a problem with it. Kateri just said, well, people have a chance to, if they don't like how it turns out, if there's not a satisfied customer, what do will you just keep working with them till we get?
Well, if we're talking about a sidewalk in front of their property, we won't do the sidewalk. I mean, you're either going to do it or you're not. So if somebody doesn't want their property impacted, we would just not do it and leave the sidewalk the way that it is.
All right, so they'll have a chance. If I'm not mistaken, the former president of the Forest Park Civic Association is Victor. And if I'm not mistaken, they meet on the second Tuesday, which is tomorrow. Mm-hmm. So they should have a meeting tomorrow. Yep. I think it would be great if you visited their meeting tomorrow, or you did, Victor, or something. Just make sure they have a chance to hear what we did here tonight. It's their neighborhood. I don't know what kind of attendance they get, but I think, or call Beatty Bolin, the president.
I talk to Beatty every week.
Good. So you know what I'm talking about. So I just think closing the loop with them, they happen to have their monthly meeting tomorrow. Mm-hmm. I'm feeling better about it. I like the discussion we've had. I like what Victor, when he came up with that comment about would you meet with people, et cetera. So of course I want to vote for it, but inclusion and making sure we reach out to people. People feel distant from government. We want them all to vote. And the way we're going to get them to vote is if we show government cares about them. And a new sidewalk is great, and that's a nice way to say, but also reaching out to them is a massive sign of trust and respect. So I don't know if Kateri's what she's gonna do with her motion.
Thank you, Councilor Allen. Any other councilors? Councilor Walsh, do you have some?
I'm waiting for the green light. Oh, it's green. There's always two sides to everything. And there could be a million meetings and public hearings and so forth and so on. And I've probably gone to every single one of these meetings for the X. And it was met with tremendous opposition when they first started. But until you get to the city council, to the night of the vote, it doesn't become real. This situation has become real tonight, and I bet $1 million that if there was no bid tomorrow, if we didn't have this gun to our heads, it would be easy vote to send this to committee, because you could sympathize with the fact 128 properties impacted. We want to make sure that everybody has had an opportunity to understand, not get the notice, but to understand what it means. And I object to the fact that we did not have a separate meeting on eminent domain, what it meant, who was affected, and how they reacted, which we have always done in the past. I don't know why that step was eliminated. And I agree mostly with what Councilor Allen is saying, because he agrees with me. But I don't want to put everybody in an awkward position. I live off of Sumner Avenue. I drive down Sumner Avenue, I don't know how many times a day. I know it's dangerous. And if anybody has ever done a standout at Sumner Avenue, I mean, you can see what awful drivers there are. So it isn't the safety of the project, it's the process. And I am really disappointed in the process, but I am smart enough to count the votes. And except for my new good buddy, Tim. going to go to Tracy's party.
So Councilor Whitfield, Councilor Walsh, does your motion stand?
Yes,
Your
I'll
motion-
withdraw the motion.
Okay, the motion has been withdrawn. Is there any further discussion on the matter? Councilor Davila?
Just to say that, to verify what Chris was just saying to my colleagues, one of the first things that I did when I became the president of the Forest Park Civic Association, one of the first meetings that I had was to call a meeting on this very same issue. And we had a meeting at the Forest Park Civic Association. We had over 80 people. Chris gave a good presentation at the time. And then, Chris, if I'm not mistaken, the last presentation you gave in front of the Forest Park Civic Association was roughly about 10 months ago or so?
I think it was last October.
It could be, yeah.
October, November,
I
something
believe
like
the
that.
mayor was present as well. And so Chris has indeed been in touch with the Forest Park Civic Association. And so, again, before we vote, I know I said this a million times, I'm just annoyed with, I don't work well when somebody puts a gun on my head. And so I think everybody gets the point here, because I'm not the only one who's ticked off about this, but this is an important project. The project needs to happen, no ifs or buts about it. And with that, I invite all my colleagues to vote in favor of this. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Davila. Okay, seeing no other councilors, Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll on approval of the appropriation for the takings?
On approval of the appropriation, Councillor Walsh.
Yes.
Yes, Councillor Allen.
Yes.
Yes, Councillor Delgado.
Yes.
Yes, Councillor Click-Bruce.
Yes.
Yes, Councillor Govan.
Yes.
Yes, Councillor Brown.
Yes.
Yes, Councillor Davila.
Yes.
Yes, Councillor Curran.
Yes.
Yes, Councillor Santinello.
Yes.
Yes, Councillor Edwards.
Yes.
Yes, Councillor Whitfield.
Yes.
Yes, Councillor Perez.
Yes.
Yes, Councillor Fenton.
Yes, more than sufficient. Appropriation is approved. Item number 12, Madam Clerk.
Item number 12 is an order of taking permanent and temporary easements.
Okay, councilors, these are the takings associated with the appropriation order. Any discussion on the takings? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
On approval, Councillor Walsh. Away, Councillor Allen.
Yes.
Yes, Councillor Delgado.
Yes.
Yes, Councillor Click-Bruce.
Yes.
Yes, Councillor Govan. Yes, Councillor Brown.
Yes.
Yes, Councillor Davila.
Yes.
Yes, Councillor Curran.
Yes.
Yes, Councillor Santinello.
Yes.
Yes, Councillor Edwards.
Yes.
Yes, Councillor Whitfield.
Yes.
Yes, Councillor Perez.
Yes.
Yes, Councillor Fenton.
Yes, more than sufficient. Takings are approved. Item number 13, Madam
Thank you,
Clerk.
councilors.
Item number 13 is an amendment to Chapter 327, Solid Waste.
Mr. Signoli. Was there a committee meeting
Should be
on this?
hopefully easier. At the last meeting, presented in front of you a revised solid waste ordinance for the city of Springfield. It was referred to committee. We had a committee meeting, I believe, on the 25th or 26th, as Councilor Brown mentioned in his report of committee, to discuss the items in front of you. The modifications that we are doing to solid waste, primarily what we're doing is, they haven't been updated in 10, 12 years, so we're updating a lot of the just verbiage in there. There is a supporting trash rules and regulation document that had some conflicting information between the two, so we cleaned up that language. The major item from a financial standpoint is that we are changing the cost for disposal of mattresses and box springs from 1 sticker to 2 stickers. Inside of the city, just want to refer to my notes here, right now paying $8 to get rid of it. Chicopee is $20, Wilbraham is $40, Longmeadow is $20 and $30, depending upon the size. Ludlow is $65, and in most of those communities, you have to bring them to the transfer station. A number of years ago, going back 2 years or so, mattress disposal became mandated by, mattress recycling became mandated by the state DEP. We are now required to collect those mattresses and have them recycled. So an item that probably cost us $20,000 or $30,000 now costs us over $200,000 to dispose of through our vendor. We're actually changing vendors November 1st to get a slightly cheaper price to do it. The other item, in my opinion, as I mentioned, I think that there's a lot of mattresses coming from outside the city into the city of Springfield because of our cost. We get requests from properties that want us to pick up 12, 14, 15 mattresses at a time, and virtually every one of these is a property management company. So in order to stem that, we went from 2,400 in, I want to make sure, 2022, to we're at 7,500 now. So the number has drastically increased in the city, and I don't think it's just because people have decided to all of a sudden buy mattresses. So I do think that there is a lot of stuff coming from outside the city. Within the ordinance modifications that we've had, we've highlighted a few other items, language that just talks about how to dispose of yard waste at the landfill. Some of that language in there was a little weak, to give people notice on that. Placement of barrels, times of collection, and one of the items that has come up in the last few years, especially in the past year, there's a lot of social media sites out there where people place stuff on tree belts for free for people to come get it, and the stuff sits out there. And you know, as a notice, right at the end of Dorset Street on Sumner Avenue, there's a building there that has a couch that's been probably sitting there for a month. That's sitting on the tree belt, a velour couch that's sitting on the tree belt for a month that has a sign on it that says free. So we kind of got that language a little tied up so that code and ordinance can jump in on things like that to deal with the property owner on it, but it is sitting within the public way.
Chris, so, if it's okay with you, I'd like to, we did hear a lot of this at the last meeting. Yep. I know there was a committee meeting on it, so if you don't mind wrapping up, I would like to turn it over to Councilor
I just
Brown.
wanted to highlight the items there. The major item, as I said, is just the increase from 1 sticker to 2 stickers for the mattresses. The only other item is we had fines in there before that said 0. Actually, it said blank. So we've put a fine in for every one of those items in there so that we have some enforcement.
Thank you, Mr. Signoli. Councilor Brown.
Thank you, Mr. President. Like Chris said, we were able to meet on this. I mentioned to Chris that, and he did tell me that this is kind of money on the books to try to ease up the burden. I explained to him that I'd like to ease up the burden for the city, but also maybe be creative and maybe think about doing something for the seniors and veterans. I think this is a great idea, but I would want to see if maybe we can send it to maybe a committee, maybe finance committee. I'd like to make a motion to send it to committee so we can kind of like revisit and try to think and go over some of the fines and how we might allocate some of the new revenue that, yes, we're taking the burden off the city, but if we can now allocate some of those resources to maybe senior taxpayers and things like that. And I know Chris said he was up to talking to the mayor to see about that. So I'd like to move it to committee.
Okay, there's a motion made by Chairman Brown to refer this matter to committee. Based on his testimony, I'd recommend a joint committee of the Maintenance and Development and Finance Committee. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Second made by Councilor Santinello. Madam Clerk, would you, Councilor Walsh on the motion?
Can I ask Chris Signelli a question? I'm sorry.
Excuse me?
I like everything in this, but as we mentioned at the committee meeting, I'm a little bit concerned about the time limit on free items because so many people put free items in front of their houses. I think 48 hours is too short. I think it should be a little longer.
Thank you, Councilor Walsh. Councilor Perez.
It's not only the fines that I'm concerned. I was reading page 129 and I have received many calls. One other thing is that my concern is that if the trash bins are overfilled They are not to collect the trash as read in 129. And I want to discuss this in committee to see what happens, because they already doing that in my ward. They're not collecting it, and it looks horrible because the people continue to pile out. And it's more of an open comment, not with some stipulations in place. I would like to discuss that. And the other concern by the constituents, the homeowners have contacted me because they find it's unfair that if they rent into the tenant and they get a fine because of the trash, how could we work this with the tenant and the homeowner before they could get that fine? I mean, there's some landlords that rent and they're not every week at the premises. So those are the questions that I still have, that I am concerned. I'm still concerned regardless how the other mattresses came from the other side of the city, and we were not doing prevention about that. And I feel at this point that my constituents are paying for that. I mean, I got so on and so on questions that I'm not comfortable with this modification until we get to the right modification of it. So I would like to have the maintenance and development continue having those discussions, and probably we could do a joint meeting. I don't know how we're going to do it, but there's a lot of questions that I have read from the ordinance that puzzles me. Thank you,
Thank you,
Mr.
Councilor Perez. Any
Chairperson.
other councilors on the motion? Councilor Whitfield.
I want to move the question.
Second.
I'm sorry.
I'm moving the
Can we ask
question.
the committee?
I'm moving the question.
Councilor Walsh.
If this motion passes, then we would immediately proceed to a vote on the motion of committee without further discussion.
Councilor Walsh, I'm moving the question.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Allen. Yes, Councilor Delgado. Yes, Councilor Quick Bruce.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Govan.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Brown.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Davila.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Curran.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Santinello. Oh. Away, Councilor Edwards.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Whitfield.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Perez.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Fenton.
Yes, more than sufficient. That'll conclude debate. Madam Clerk, please call the roll on referral of this matter to a joint committee of the Maintenance and Development and Finance Committees.
On referral to committees, Councilor Walsh.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Allen. Yes, Councilor Delgado.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Quick Bruce.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Govan.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Brown.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Davila.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Curran.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Santinello away. Councilor Edwards.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Whitfield.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Perez.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Fenton.
Yes, more than sufficient. Matter is referred to committee. Any more business, Madam Clerk?
There's none.
Okay, council will stand adjourned. Next week is a holiday. We will be back in regular session October 21st, 7 p.m. Thank you and good night.